Hi! As you can see, we're back with a new video, and today's video is about why it's wrong to buy animals as pets. I just want to say in advance that it took me about like 2.5 hours to write the script for this video, and as I'm still sort of new with this, and I for some reason have it's not like it's diagnosed or anything. I just have a very bad memory and I get easily confused and repeat things if I don't have a script. So I'm having a script and it might look as if I'm looking at it because I am. But yeah, so let's get started. So I think we can all agree that we've seen all these gorgeous pictures of the most beautiful and cutest cats and dogs online or in pet stores, like in real life. And they just look so precious and so cute, and you just want them because like they're so small. Are you okay, Angel Princess? Sorry about that. They're just so small and so cute, and they have the most precious face, and they look so fluffy. So you just really want them, and yeah, I can really understand that. But this whole buying a pet thing is really not as simple or as nice as you may think originally. I think most people will generally tend to see their pets as part of their family, so like as just another family member. But a lot of us don't even stop to think where these companions come from in the first place. Most of these store-bought pets are kept in terrible conditions, except for, well, the obvious fact that they're bred into existence in the first place by selfish, greedy humans who just want to make money out of them. Most breeders will keep these animals in very small cages, just barely enough for them to turn around. A lot of them getting sick or injured and sometimes needing medical care that they probably won't get. Left to continue breeding while suffering even more from painful infections, diseases, or any other injuries that are not taken care of, and are literally just seen as a money-making breeding machine for humans. And once no longer profitable, as in incapable of making any more babies, they will usually just get dumped or killed. There is a term called an ethical breeder, which is obviously bullshit. The term means that the animals are not raped, they're not forced to do anything, they're just kept in a comfortable home with, cuddles, treats, all the things that they deserve. They're just not spayed or neutered. So possibly even bought from that kind of filthy place we just talked about. And basically they're just left to make babies on their own, which are later sold as pets. These breeders, I think, will normally not supply to pet stores because they have, I guess, a somewhat small amount of decency and respect left to actually care where their animals go to and want to meet the owners to make sure the animals are going to have an actually good home. All considering, they still don't take into account the fact that animals are not objects to just be like bought and sold, and not even thinking or caring about the millions suffering and dying in streets, where they could so easily get hurt, abused, starved, or sick without any possibility of treatments a lot of times. Or in shelters where there is usually not the proper care they need and obviously they deserve. A lot of shelters will also euthanize the animals who have been there the longest, even the younger ones, I think sick ones too, or maybe even less cute ones that maybe are missing an eye or a leg, or who have any other deformity. Also, some shelters will not give the proper care and necessary health care that they deserve, obviously. So even if those ethical breeders treat their own animals with respect, they definitely do not care about those who are suffering elsewhere. And the obvious fact that they're making money off of someone's body, which is obviously wrong. One should have to tell you that. Okay, so back to talking about those other shitty people, who cram animals in tiny cages and will often rape the animals, forcing them to reproduce. And will just keep using them until their bodies can't take it anymore. Now, what you're probably thinking about is that this is only happening to cats and dogs, but it happens to every single animal being used for their body or bodily functions. Reptiles, bunnies, rats, birds, anyone else if I missed them. These filthy, disgusting rapists who keep these poor animals in tiny cages are usually the ones to sell their animals to pet stores and any other place where you can buy an animal as a pet. Plenty of times these animals are sent to stores, to pet stores overseas, so they are crammed into tiny little boxes or cages and are just left to sit there for hours, maybe even more, depending on how far the pet store is from the breeding place. They're just left to sit there in their own waste until they get to the pet stores. Needless to say, these shitty conditions often leave animals sick, severely injured, obviously, sometimes even dead. Most pet stores will sell animals pretty cheap, so you probably wouldn't guess that when an animal gets sick or injured there, they will usually not get cared for because it's too expensive. I've seen video evidence from an undercover PETA activist working at Petco, I think. I don't remember correctly. I will link the video in the description. They have recorded voices of the store workers when they were asked to take an injured or very sick, like obviously sick animal for vet care, oftentimes saying that a potentially high, over $300 vet bill is not worth a $10 animal. Also saying that they simply don't care. Other times, except for the rape, obviously, that happens in these breeding places, you can probably guess what happens if an animal doesn't want to do what the breeder wants them to, or if they just do something that is just simply a little annoying. Also, speaking of cramming animals into a small space, we're also going to talk about even adopting an animal, but keeping them in a cage or a tank their whole life. Even if you often take them out, they are still captive. If there's another animal around, make sure that they're separated when they're alone, but not keeping one in a small cage. If you need to leave the house, but don't trust, for instance, a cat with a rat or a small bunny, you can put the bunny or the rat in one of the biggest rooms of your house and close them in there. Just make sure that they have food and water and a bathroom, and some toys would be nice as well. But don't put them in a small cage. Then a very, very tiny fish will swim the full space of a whole mansion in maybe just like a day, or maybe even less, if given the opportunity and, not crammed into a tiny tank or a little bowl. Don't keep them in a tank. Fish, in my opinion, should not really be kept as pets either, as they will need a ginormous place to swim around and just, be entertained and not limited to a very small space. You can't let them out of their cage like you would, let's say, for a bunny, a hamster, or a bird, because the fish, it needs water. They need water. You do have, for instance, like a sanctuary with like a bigger pool-sized water space for the fish, and don't have so many fish, I think it would be fine. Again, don't buy them because pet stores, breeders, they're not good, they're disgusting. Just don't buy them. They definitely do not deserve to live in just a slightly better place than they did before if you rescue them. They deserve to live their full life doing whatever they would do in nature. Given the circumstances that if they have a pool sanctuary kind of place, they do have like a bit of a smaller space than they would in nature, but it's still better than cramming them in a tiny space. Just, being free. As for birds, like parrots, I know that owners will sometimes clip their wing feathers, so they have sometimes vary or sometimes a little less, but they do have a limit to how properly they can fly. Sometimes they can't fly that well. Especially since birds can probably fly through a whole mansion space in just a matter of a few minutes. It's cruel to keep them in a cage, and it's cruel to cut their wings. Because fly, it's a bird. They weren't born to be held, blah blah. They weren't born to be held in a small cage, sometimes taken out, as like a toy. They were meant to fly and, be free. It's just a part of them. It's a part of who they are or who they're meant to be. And they also, not to mention that they probably love doing it. So don't limit them just for your own comfort. Even better, educate a bird to come when called, so you can also let them fly around trees and nature, the original space in which they're meant to be. Okay, so now reptiles. Unless you have a huge room that you can transform into like some sort of rocky, grassy, like nature-like area that best mimics their natural habitat, you shouldn't get one. Also, considering you'll probably have to buy other dead animals to feed them, which are, I mean, I don't know how they're killed. I failed to educate myself on this part, but they could have been killed just for this purpose. Well, they probably have. If you see a mistreated one and they need a home, just want to save their life, rescue them, sure, you have plenty of room for them. Not a cage. Prisoners. So no cages, no tanks. Again, other animals you don't trust around them, leave them in a big closed room with the necessary things that they need. If you need to leave for a while, come back, let them out, and just watch them. Obviously, when they just come in as new residents to your home, you should make sure that you gradually introduce them to each other. The new housemate will obviously also need time to adjust to their new home, let alone any more roommates that already live in the house. Be patient, because it might take time. And if there are any problems that seem pretty permanent, for instance, the new resident being sort of tracked or seems to be hunted down by any other animals that live in the house, or them themselves acting out, because sometimes that can happen, you should always, obviously, always give it time and carefully try to treat it, because things like this do take time. But if it doesn't work, you might just need to find a new home for that newer resident, as sad as it is. Maybe like a sanctuary, which typically will try to mimic any newcomer's natural habitat as much as possible. And I think most sanctuaries will take in most animals, but you should always call in advance, call a few of them, asking if they can take them in. If not, keep them for a while, like, again, in a room if necessary, but make sure that they're not closed in a tiny space, and make sure that they have, like, the decent things that they need for their life, and make sure that you're with them as well for a while, and try to find a good home for them, where you know that they will not be imprisoned in a tiny cage or tank or any other very small space, because they're not prisoners. And when a cage will ever be necessary, or sometimes not even necessary but preferred for safety reasons, is when you take them to the vet to sleep peacefully, and you're worried that they might run around or climb something, do something that could possibly hurt themselves. That your bedroom is a safe place. Again, you don't have to obsess over this. Just make sure the place is safe. Make sure any furniture they can climb on or anything is not wobbly or won't like fall apart easily, so that if they climb it, it won't fall and possibly crush them or hurt them in any other way. Make sure that the room is safe and sleep with them in your room with the door closed. No cages. If they're misbehaving, try to work on it. Close them maybe for a while in a slightly smaller room. Again, make sure that they have at least water and a bathroom, and don't leave them in there obviously for too long. I mean, Make a human child sit in a small cage that they can barely move around in. Do not do that to any animal. Doesn't matter how bad they're misbehaving. You would give a human child a timeout, close them in their room without like the toys that they love. That's fine. Close them in a small room, make sure that they don't have any toys in there, leave them in there for just a little while, make sure that they have a bathroom in there and water at least. Again, just treat them just exactly as you would like to be treated yourself if you were to switch places with them. So if you wouldn't want them to lock you in a cage your whole life, or even just when they're misbehaving, don't do that to them. Even if they have food and water, it's a cage, they're not meant to be in there. And if you wouldn't want that to happen to you, then don't do that to anyone else. It's really, is that necessary if they really have serious behavioral problems that you can't seem to figure out how to treat on your own? Look for a good trainer and work with them. About spaying and neutering, even though for them, any animal, it is unnatural to have any type of procedure like this done. Occasionally, go out, have sex with their siblings or roommates. I mean, that happens. They're animals. They don't really think about these kinds of things. And the next thing you know, you're just going to have like 5 more companions that are probably going to be adopted out to other people. Other innocent babies on the streets there for even longer. Again, a minute even could save those lives. And I mean, in shelters for even longer, potentially even passing their euthanasia date for those kill shelters. So considering when you adopt one animal from a shelter, you're not potentially just saving that life from getting killed later in time. You are also freeing up space in the shelter for a street animal to get even better care than before. Even if it's not the best, it still is better than living on the streets, being susceptible to lots of problems. And you are saving 2 lives when you adopt one from a shelter. So even though for them it really isn't natural to get fixed, because, yeah, I mean, it's the circle of life, it saves so many other lives from suffering from getting killed, abused, and all of those other problems. Because as of right now, not only are a bunch of idiots dumping animals to suffer and die, let alone animals that probably trusted them and loved them and didn't understand what they did wrong, they are also breeding even more into the world, lots of times forcefully. And not to mention that lots of breeds have tons of physical health problems because of this crossbreeding or weird mutations and genetical modifications done to them in the breeding process to make them look cuter or prettier, or I don't know. Humans are weird. So as of right now, it really is necessary that whatever animal friend you have in your house is spayed and neutered to prevent suffering of many others. These procedures also don't harm them at all, so it's, I mean, all good there. It's completely safe. And if it is less popular or harder to find, you really can pretty much adopt or rescue any small animal, like parrots. Again, parrots, mice, rats, bunnies, like, you can basically rescue any animal. You can save their life and give them the life they deserve, full of happiness and love. So as much for those breeding places, again, like I said before, never buy pets, because even if it is an ethical breeder, they still, at the end of the day, support needless suffering of other animals that live on the streets. I hope this video helped you learn anything new, or helped you make up your mind whether you should get a companion animal or not, or which one you should get, or, make you finally realize that if you have one at home, that it is cruel and disgusting to keep an animal in a small cage, even if you do take them out often. So please like this video and tell me in the comments below what you learned. And if you like my content, please subscribe to see more. As always, have a great day, be kind, and always help someone in need. Bye!